All right, I am live again. Look at me going live multiple times. Look at me, I'm on a roll. Okay, all right, let's get started. Okay, let me just calm this down real quick. Okay, so let's get into it. I will be doing a breakdown of the 2011 movie Sucker Punch. Now, I didn't take notes because I don't take notes, but I do remember the movie. Um, I was reading some of the reviews for the movie. The movie is definitely, they said it was lacking emotional development for the characters, a backstory for some of the characters. I saw that they said that this is like a Lara Croft video game, just repetitive. All in all, I would say when I first watched the movie, I loved the movie back in the day when I watched it. It was actiony, it had beautiful girls in the movie, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. Awesome. Years later, I mean, this movie came out in 2011, so this movie definitely came out before I got serious about my spirituality. So it was good looking at the movie because I picked up on so many more things. So let's break it down. I'm gonna have to change the title because um, so all in all, I would say that this movie is similar to one of the anime I just watched called Sayuki, Saiku, Saiyuki. Sayuki. It's basically about like a Buddhist priest who's traveling west to India with three demons. I also feel like that story I also feel like with Sucker Punch in this story, it's not necessarily about three different people. I don't believe Sucker Punch is about four different women. I believe that Sucker Punch has always been about one woman. It was one girl, but we saw four parts of her in this insane asylum. Um, let's get into the insane asylum. It was called Linux. Linux. So when you look up the word Linux, it will give you this. I be pausing the movie. You don't want to watch a movie with me because I will pause the movie all the time and research the word. So the Linux Institution, the Linux House of the Mental Asylum, is a English surname, but it means is Gaelic, and it basically is talking about the elm trees. And I'm like, elm trees. So then that took me to look up elm. So I'm going back. Elm trees, ELM. So it's like elm trees, Elm Street, like Freddy Krueger. What it means is that these trees symbolize the passage to the underworld, the passage to the spirit world. So you will see that these ladies throughout the movie, they refer to all the time about they're already dead. So they need to escape because this is death pretty much, like they're not alive. So when you understand that Sucker Punch is a movie about these girls or a girl escaping the underworld, the girl escaping her own death. Okay, so so the Elm Linux, what that mental asylum represented is the underworld and them trying to escape the underworld. Now, the doctor Gorski, her name meant the dweller within the mountain. So she was basically just like a dweller within the underworld. She was not a good or bad. She was a part of the underworld. Now, the owner of the asylum, Mr. Pleasant, you look at his name. His name means to give, to offer, to be an assistance. And you see that in the movie he was giving these girls away in exchange for power, money, wealth, status. That was what he was giving in exchange to. What I'm really trying to say is that when you want to decode, when you want to find a meaning, anything that is produced by the system is propaganda. Everything produced is political. The writers they choose is political. The cast members that they choose is political. The clothing that they wear is political. The music that they wear, the ethnicity that they pick for the characters are all political. These are all strategic, purposeful choices that the creators make. I feel like there's a little bit lag. So you also know that their clothing, all their clothing was black. Not one black character though. So traveling through the underworld and going through the spirit, these women definitely had to. I would say that like melanin is always important. It wasn't for Ashira Star Goddess. I'm always going to reference her because I don't take. We learn from each other, and if they don't say they don't learn from each other, then they lying. Um, Melanin is important, so I do feel like they had to use these dark clothing in the sense to represent them traveling through darkness, them traveling through the underworld. Now, so we have Elm Tree, we have Linux Me Elm. Elm is Underworld. These girls are in the underworld. There's 4 girls plus the main character is 5. There's 5 girls, right? At the end of the movie, she went to Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne is when you think about Fort Wayne, they say Fort Wayne is the safest. Fort Wayne is higher above elevation, but Fort Wayne also represents the number. Well, they said Wayne represents 5, but Wayne also represents is to like decrease or to let go of something. And you will see that a lot of the time at the end of these movies, these girls, before they were able to get to Fort Wayne, they had to let go a lot of who they were. So where they had to sacrifice parts of themselves, and you will see that. That's why I said this character is about one person. It's one girl, but her personas are split into 5 people. And you'll see that before she could get to her freedom, she had to wane stuff about her off. Before she had to escape the underworld, she had to sacrifice, or parts of her had to be killed. Do y'all see this? Do y'all hear? You see how this is making sense? Tell me this is making sense, because it's making a lot of sense. I'm killing it. So, all right. So then I'm telling you, this is live. Like I don't write shit down. I'm just thinking about the movie. Now let's talk about the items that she needed to escape. They said she needed a key, a map, a map, fire, and a knife. But she also already had a sword, and she already had a gun and a keychain with it. So I feel like there were 7 items. It was 7 items she had to acquire. 7 is a very sacred number. So you have to be thinking she needed to collect these 7 items that also represented parts of her that needed to escape. Let's get into it. The sword and the gun, which represented, I feel like the sword was definitely, in my sense, the sword is represents the desire to fight. The sword and gun is the weapons that she already had. They kept saying that you have all the things you need already. You don't need anything else outside of you. They kept saying, repeated, that everything you need is already inside. There's no need for you to search inward. So she went inside and she found the sword and she found the gun, the katana and the gun to fight. The third item she needed was a map. A map brings awareness. A map allows you to travel through your fears, your subconscious, basically traveling through the unknown. She needed that awareness that she needed to go. Fire represents an occult is striving. Fire represent the gift, the fire to raise your consciousness. So she needed that fire, that desire to go. She needed a key. She needed the keys to unlock the doors. She needed the master key. When you think about what keys are, what doors are passageways for things to come in, to come out. So, but she needed the key. She needed a key. So, and but also what the key does is that the key also unlocks parts of her, and maybe parts of her past, parts of her truth, and parts that she had to realize that had to be gone. And the last thing was fire, map, and a knife. You see, what the knife is similar to the sword. And I also feel like what this show is saying is that you need to refine your frequency. Refine your frequency. You need to, in order to escape the underworld, in order to rise above your lower nature, you need to have discipline. You need to have the will. See, I feel like the discipline is like a knife, is like a sword. Your discipline needs to be as sharp and as strong to cut away things in your way. You need to have the will, which is like the fire to, I would say, to keep going. The will, like if there's a will, there's a way. Like I said, the fire is like the spirit. The spirit, and spirit wants to connect with spirit. That is what spirit is. The flower grows towards the sun. Spirit wants to connect with spirit. Spirit wants to gain awareness. So the will to like strive and to be better is all necessary to refine your frequency. So that's why I feel like what this show was kind of saying about the evolution of self and the evolution of spirit to escape the underworld. And then, so I think, and then she escaped. The girls, basically, they all died except one. They all had to be sacrificed for the god in her to escape the underworld. And then it was obvious, like it was what I guess why this show is a staple, because this show is obviously an occult show. The man was called the wise one, the one who is not real, but the one who exists in this fantasy world when the music plays. The music is representing of a frequency, tapping into something. She used the music to tap into a frequency that transported everybody consciousness into another dimension, because we know the mind is multidimensional. So the music was an instrument to tap in to another dimension, another world. But in this world, there was the wise one, an older man, like a sage-like figure. I believe this man honestly just represented the higher self, that is guiding us, everyone, through the underworld. And he was the bus driver that led her to Fort Wayne, that led her to her salvation. Yeah, where we at? Oh, 14 minutes. Okay, yeah, we're done. So yeah, that's what Sucker Punch is. That's how I decoded Sucker Punch. Thank you for the person who subscribed. Not, I don't know if you subscribed, but you commented and you asked me to review Sucker Punch. I might do Godzilla. There was a Godzilla trilogy that is on Netflix, and it's obviously has symbolism in that too. But I'm waiting for something else to come out. I'm gonna let these videos marinate before I start busting out more and more videos. So like, comment, and subscribe. Give me some suggestions or what you want me to watch. Maybe a topic that you want me to talk about.